So there is something known as convergent validity and there is something known as discriminant validity. Just remember yesterday's validity slide. So construct validity is established through measures. One is convergent validity and second is discriminant validity. Now the beauty of SEM is that it allows you to establish both the sets of validity, that is convergent validity and discriminant validity. And along with that, it also helps you to test the path relationship. So when you do SEM, first you establish the validity of the construct and then you check the path relationship or you check the relationship between the constructs. So the beauty of the SEM is that two things in one umbrella. One, it helps you to establish the construct validity, and second, it helps you to test your hypothesis, which is nothing but the relationship between the constructs. So that is the idea of SEM. So let's slightly see in length as to what SEM is and when to use it. So now when I talk about SEM, let's talk about origin. So the origin is very old, 1904. So Charles Spearman, an American person, he came out with factor analysis technique. Now when I say factor analysis, so the purpose of factor analysis is to uncover the factor structure in the data. The purpose of factor analysis is to uncover the factor structure in the data, because let's say you have circulated 30 items, 40 items, and if you want to know the pattern in the questionnaire, or if you want to explore the underlying factor structure, factor analysis is the preferred technique. So the origin of SEM dates back to 1904, but somebody came out with factor analysis. Maximum innovation in SEM happened in 1980s when Joris Cogg and Herman Wold they came out with structure equation modeling. So now Spearman was working on this intelligence theory, and he wanted to understand what kind of intelligence people have. And again, if you talk about factor analysis, it is a method to explore the underlying latent variable. Again, when you run EFA, you get to know how many factors are there in your data or in your questionnaire. Yes. Okay. So later on, people build upon this factor analysis which was given by Charles Spearman, and people came out with SEM. So that's why whenever you are applying all the statistics, first step is EFA, and after EFA follows CFA. So in EFA, you get to know that how many factors are there in your questionnaire or in your data set. And once you explore the underlying factor structure, the next step is you run CFA to confirm whether this factor structure are valid or not. Is that clear? EFA will not help you to establish validity. Please remember this. Validity can only be established through SEM. Yes, that is through CFA. CFA is a part of SEM. So again, just remember this name. So in 1970s, Carl Joris Cogg and Dag Sorbonne, they made lot of developments in the idea of structure equation modeling. So that is the history of how SEM has evolved from factor analysis to SEM. And now if you are running SEM, please remember SEM has two families. There are two techniques to perform SEM. One is your CB-SEM and second is your PLS-SEM. Yes. So now if you want to perform CB-SEM, there are specialized software like Amos, or for that matter M+, Lizrail. So Amos of late is very popular, but before Amos there was something called as Lizrail. So if you see the full form of Lizrail, it is a linear structural equation relationship, and the full form of Amos is analysis of moment structure. Yes. So there are dedicated software like Lizrail, Amos, EQS, M+. So all this software, they help you to perform structure equation modeling. But these software are to perform CB-SEM, that is covariance based structure equation modeling. So remember yesterday's discussion, I said when I say CB-SEM, it is a parametric approach to structure equation modeling. And when I say PLS-SEM, it is a non-parametric approach to structure equation modeling. Now CB-SEM, it comes with certain assumptions. If those assumptions are satisfied, then you can go for CB-SEM. Example is multivariate normality assumptions. CB-SEM says that whatever data that you have, there has to be some normality assumptions. So if those assumptions are satisfied, then you can go for CB-SEM. Also remember, that CB-SEM is a large sample size technique. So if you want to perform CB-SEM, you should have a fairly decent sample size. Is that clear? So again, CB-SEM is good, but it has certain conditions. Those conditions have to be fulfilled before using CB-SEM. And these softwares are there: AMOS, EQS, M+. These are complementary software. People use AMOS. Then later on, SEM gained a lot of popularity in so many other management disciplines like psychology, marketing, HR, and so many other disciplines. SEM became very, very popular. Why SEM became popular? Because its ability to model complex relationships among observed and latent variables simultaneously. Now see, when I say observed variable, this is your manifest variable, indicator variable, and your latent variable is your construct. So this SEM, it helps you to model the relationship between your observed variables and your construct. At the same time, it also helps you to account for measurement error. Just remember typical regression: y is equal to beta naught plus beta 1 times x plus beta 2 times x plus epsilon. In regression, if there are errors associated with the observed variable, you never made account of that. A simple regression, or for that matter a multiple regression, it never helps you to account for measurement error. Even if there are error, you just model them in your relationship and there was no mention of it. And if you talk about regression, it is assumed that variables have no errors. When you are modeling a regression, you go with this assumption that the variables are sacrosanct, there is no errors associated with it. And this is a very biased assumption. No matter whatever you measure, there will be a certain degree of measurement error. So a normal regression or a multiple regression, it never took care of measurement error. But when I talk about SEM, it models the relationship between observed variable and the construct. At the same time, it also accounts for the errors that are associated with the observed variables. So let's say you took a scale to measure well-being, so 5-item scale. Now if you are measuring well-being, you are asking 5 questions to people. So these 5 questions will have a set of errors. So SEM takes care of measurement error, which was not taken care by normal regression. So it helps you to establish, it helps you to model complex relationship among observed and latent variables simultaneously, allowing researchers to test and refine theoretical models. So you can test some models and understand causal relationship and estimate direct and indirect paths with a system of variables. Now see, if you want to test a mediation, or let's say if you want to test a moderation in your model, so your normal software, or for that matter normal regression, will not help you to estimate direct effect and indirect effect. Yes? Now when I say indirect effect, this is the mediation. By the way, tomorrow's session we are going to talk about mediation and moderation. So let's say you have a mediation in your model. Just remember my yesterday's model. Notoriety leads to success, and creativity and the other was risk taking. Were mediators. So let's say if you have a mediator in your model, it can't be taken care by normal regression. But SEM, it allows you to establish causal relationship, cause and effect relationship between the variables, and at the same time it also helps you to assess direct and indirect effects, even for that matter moderation. So if you use SEM, you can test complex models. You can test complex models. So that's essentially the idea. Now again, if I go, now today it is used extensively in almost all disciplines, finance, economics, in almost all fields. You read any A-star paper, FT50 paper, people are heavily using structural equation modeling. Even today it is very, very popular. Yes? So I call SEM as a second generation statistics. Above SEM, you should also make effort to learn multi-level modeling, which slightly goes above SEM. Yes? Then if you talk about SEM, SEM is combination of psychometrics and econometrics. Now when I say psychometrics, this is measurement model testing. When I say psychometrics, this is measurement model testing. Now what is measurement model? The relationship between construct and its indicators, or the relationship between constructs and the observed variables, or the relationship between constructs and the manifest variables. So SEM is a combination of psychometrics, means this is measurement model testing. And when I say econometrics, this is your multiple regression. This is your multiple regression. So here you are doing theory testing. This is also known as, when I say psychometrics, either you call it measurement model testing or theory testing, and then you perform, for path analysis, you go and perform multiple linear regression. Yes? So this is theory testing, and this is path analysis, that is multiple regression. Yes? Now what is the idea of psychometrics? I'll give an example. Now, if I can show you this, let's say I show you one data. Okay. Let me zoom this for all of you. Yeah, okay. Just focus on these constructs. Let's say I have measured OCB through 8 items. Can you see this? Let me mark it, let's say yellow color. So I have measured OCB through 8 items. So when I am measuring OCB, I am using somebody else's scale or measure. Now what is the guarantee that I exactly measured OCB? I have used somebody's scale, but what is the guarantee I have exactly measured OCB? Then in that case I do psychometrics. So what is psychometric? This is measurement model testing. Somebody else has given a measure. Now I have collected data on that measure, but is my data passing the test of validity? Yes? So that's why when I say psychometric, this is measurement model testing. In psychometrics, we test the relationship between manifest variable and the construct. Just bear this in mind. And when I say econometrics, this is your path analysis, or this is your multiple regression. Path analysis is nothing but the relationship between the constructs, and which is essentially your hypothesis. See the hypothesis, take any paper and see the hypothesis. People say that the variables have positive relationship, negative relationship, or X influences Y. So all this relationship you test through econometrics. So in SEM you are learning 2 things. One is your psychometrics and second is your econometrics. Okay, so we'll use this data set. This is the data set of my PhD. Okay. So psychometrics constitutes your confirmatory factor analysis, and econometrics is your MLR, that is multiple linear regression. Should you proceed? You can ask any questions. Yeah, I would be happy if this session takes a conversational perspective. This session should not be a monologue, it should be a dialogue between you and me. Feel free to ask me any questions. I'll try to answer to the best of my abilities. Yeah, okay. So today we will run SEM in the second half. So approaches to SEM. So there are 2 approaches to SEM, CB-SEM and PLS-SEM. There was a big fight between people who use CB-SEM and people who started using PLS-SEM. By the way, the popularity of PLS-SEM reached its peak just last decade. From 2011 onwards, people started using PLS-SEM. And there was huge criticism for this approach to this approach to SEM. People said PLS-SEM is nonsense. In fact, there was one journal, I'm not remembering the name of that journal. It was an A-star journal. If you have used PLS-SEM for your analysis, and if you submit your paper to that journal, your paper would have been test rejected. If they see if you have used PLS-SEM. So there was big controversy, big fight happened, and there were professors like Ronco and Everman. They wrote a paper that this is a faltu method. I'm using a very colloquial term. This is a useless method. It should not be used. And there was a big fight happened. And then the developers of PLS-SEM, they came with their own arguments, challenging the perspective which Ronco and Everman said. And they said, no, this method is very robust. Even today, now, people are developing PLS-SEM. If you talk about CB-SEM, Amos is there. You do CFA, you do path analysis, everything is sorted, picture is clear. There is no new developments happening for CB-SEM. But when I say PLS-SEM, even today people are coming out with new developments. So this is that method which is taking an upward trajectory. People are coming, people are writing papers, people are fine-tuning it, and they are proposing new methods and new alternatives to make your analysis robust. Yes, and in fact, now people have gone ahead and that they said, they have started saying that PLS-SEM is more advanced than CB-SEM. Yes? So there are a lot of arguments in favor of using PLS-SEM in your research. So it's a second generation statistical technique with two popular approaches, CB-SEM and covariance based SEM. So now when to use CB-SEM and when to use PLS-SEM. So normally not many people ask, should I go for CB-SEM or PLS-SEM? I said both methods are complementary. Let's say you would go with tea or coffee. You see, some people have lot of inclination towards coffee and some people have lot of inclination towards tea. Now tea and coffee, there is a divide. But when I talk about CB-SEM, PLS-SEM, now both are complementary. Now, when I say both are complementary, you can use both of them. But still, whenever you read papers where researchers have applied PLS-SEM, you see they give a very big argument as to why they have used PLS-SEM. And if you read papers where researchers have used CB-SEM, they never give any argument as to why they are using CB-SEM. All papers, even A-star journal, FT50 paper, all those people who are using PLS-SEM, they write one paragraph in defense as to why they are using PLS-SEM as their preferred choice. That's not the case with CB-SEM. But if your goal is for theory testing, not theory developing, so let's say some theory is developed, and you see maximum research scholars across the globe, they are not coming out with a new theory. You see, take example of India. India has very good defense capabilities, but India does not know how to manufacture engines for jet. Yes? So manufacturing an engine for jet is like climbing the Mount Everest. Similarly, if you are a researcher, developing a theory is like climbing a Mount Everest. Developing a theory in India or across the globe, it is like climbing a Mount Everest. That's why you see many scholars, they are not developing in theory. They are using existing theories, they are using their construct, they are using their variables, and they are saying, okay, this theory fits into my context. Or there are some ifs and buts to the theory which has been developed in the West. So this theory is modified and this is that way. But if you are really developing a theory, actually you are actually you are climbing a Mount Everest. Yes? Okay? So if your goal is theory testing or theory confirming, then CB-SEM should be the preferred choice. But if you are contributing to theory, if you are developing a theory, then people say PLS-SEM is the best. So this is for theory confirmation and PLS-SEM is for theory development. Yes? So what it says, CB-SEM is primarily used to confirm or reject theories and their underlying hypothesis. This approach confirms reject hypothesis by determining how closely a proposed theoretical model can reproduce the covariance matrix for an observed sample data set. I'll give you an example. So when you are using CB-SEM, or let's say when you draw a model in Amos, you say A leads to B, B leads to C. So Amos will take this as a best theory, or it will say this is a theory. Then it will produce a covariance matrix. It will produce a covariance matrix and it will try to see whether your data is conforming to this theory or not. So that's the underlying principle of as to how Amos functions. Yes? So that is the idea. The goal is to confirm theories or reject theories. Now when I talk about PLS-SEM, it's a causal predictive approach to SEM. What is causal predictive? Anyone? What is causal predictive? Causal predictive. You see any model, so there is antecedent and there is consequence or the outcome variable. So there are antecedents. So let's say OCB. What leads to OCB? So why people engage in extra role behaviors? So there are personalities. There are certain personalities which are bound to be displaying extra role behaviors. Then there are organizational culture. If the organization culture is decent, people will indulge in helping behavior. Then your relationship quality with so many people in the organization. If somebody is treating you nicely, you will treat them nicely, you will reciprocate those behaviors. So if you take example of any model, you see antecedents and then the consequence. So what is causal predictive? So what is the cause and effect relationship? So what is causing what? What is causing what? That is causal predictive approach. Now see, again I am saying, when you collect data using cross-sectional method. Now when I say cross-sectional method means for all the variables you are collecting data at one point in time. I call this as a very loose kind of a research. See, you collect data today. Tomorrow, what if tomorrow people's opinion changes? So cross-sectional data has a very historical validity. Means somewhere in the past people behave like this. It might not be that people will behave the same way in future. Now the question is, how can you have a causal predictive approach with a cross-sectional data? You can't have prediction with a cross-sectional data. So now when the developers of PLS-SEM, when they said that ours is a causal predictive approach, then critics said you are using cross-sectional data and how can you say that this is the cause and this is the effect? Yes? So then the developers of PLS-SEM, they came with their argument that yes, we are causal predictive, but provided you have a longitudinal data or collect data at different time periods. In a cross-sectional data where all the variables information has been collected at one point in time, you can't say it's a causal predictive approach. Is that clear? So that's why in your research design you should make provision that first set of data I will collect at time 1 and at certain time period 2, let's say 3 months, 4 months down the line, again I will try to collect the data. At time 3 again I will try to collect the data. So I will collect data at different time periods and then I will see what is the causal predictive approach there. So it's a causal predictive approach to SEM which focuses on explaining the variance in the model's dependent variable. See, when I say variance in the model's dependent variable, this is R square. This is R square which in statistics is known as coefficient of determination. See, the goal of PLS-SEM is to maximize the variance in the dependent variable. So if your goal is to predict the explanatory power of the model, or if you want to explain how much variance all independent variables are explaining in the dependent variable, you should use PLS-SEM. You should use PLS-SEM. So if you want to explain the variance in the dependent variable, PLS-SEM is the preferred approach. That's why you see wherever people are reporting PLS-SEM, they report R square. And they write this term, it is an in-sample predictive power of the model. R square, it is known as in-sample predictive power of the model. Now when I say R square, what is R square according to you? Come on, what is R square? And what is the threshold of R square? By the way, statistics is all about thresholds. Yes, what is R square? Come on, what is R square? And how much should be the R square?
0.5.
Pardon, sir?
0.5 at least.
0.5.
3%.
R square 0.5. 0.5 means you are explaining 5% of your dependent variable.
50%.
So 50% means you are explaining 50%, 50% you are not explaining. See again I said R square is something IV is explaining about dV is R square. If my R square is let's say 60%, it means 1 minus R square is 40%. 40% I am not explaining. So that's why it is said that 1 minus R square is your contribution to research. R square is something that people know about a particular phenomena, 60% is known. What extra you are contributing? You see corona vaccine, when corona vaccine started coming, so people said our vaccine is 70% effective. It means 30% it is ineffective. Russians came and said our vaccine is 91% effective. They got the patent for it. So from 60 they jumped to 90, 31% more contributed. Somebody came, they said we are explaining 93%. Means they contributed 2% more and they got the patent for it. Now the question is how much should be the R square? 5%, 10%, 20%, 50%, 60%, or let's say somebody has explained everything under the sky. In social science, you can never have R square 100%. If you have R square 100%, it means your data is overfitting the model. But when you read literatures, you need to find out that the dV that is of your interest, what is the R square that is generally reported in most of the literatures. Let's say your dependent variable is organizational identification. So download all papers on OI and see, again, when you are reading about papers, you need to focus on two papers. One is your meta-analysis paper and second is your review papers. Now many people ask me question that, sir, how should I do my review of literature? I tell them start reading meta-analytic papers. So meta-analysis paper is combining many quantitative studies and coming out with that. Or read review papers. So let's say you downloaded a meta-analytic paper and you got to know that OI, you have identified all the antecedents of OI and all the moderators of OI and all the mediators of OI, and you got to know that About OI 70% is explained. Now you have to go above 70% in order to say something more about OI. Yes? So if your goal is to maximize the variance in the dependent variable, or if your goal is to explain the explanatory power of the model, your preferred approach should be PLS-SEM. For confirming and rejecting theory, CB-SEM, and if you want to maximize the R square, which is contributing to the theory development, you should go for PLS-SEM. Now you should ask a question that whatever research topic that I am working on, is it a confirmatory theory or it is a exploratory theory? So if you are exploring something, or if your research is exploratory, you should go for PLS-SEM. If you are confirming something that is already known with your data, then you should go for CB-SEM. So that is the fundamental divide. But of late, there is a lot of confusion in most of the research papers. People are using CB-SEM and PLS-SEM in a very complementary way. Because here the goal of people has become to accept or reject hypothesis. So now people are using PLS-SEM to accept and reject hypothesis, which CB-SEM also does. So that's why in a lot of literature you find that CB-SEM and PLS-SEM, they are complementary now. And there is no divide left as to when to use and when not to use. Though there are a lot of papers that have been written and people are saying when to use PLS-SEM.
Sir,
yes.
आपने जैसे बोला कि PLS-SEM जब जो है लोग अप्लाई करते हैं तो कम से कम एक पैराग्राफ में उसे एक्सप्लेन जरूर.
Yes.
ये क्यों करना पड़ता है?
Okay, so interesting question. See, first of all, CB-SEM can't test formative constructs. Yes, CB-SEM can't have a construct which is measured using one item. CB-SEM can't test a model which is very, very complex. So CB-SEM has its limitations. Is that clear? And PLS-SEM, again I am saying, it has a role in theory development. But it has become a convention. It has become a convention that because you are using non-parametric approach to CB-SEM, so you need to have a valid ground or valid logic as to why you are using PLS-SEM. So to explain the logic, people write a paragraph about it that given my consideration or given my situations or given my context, given my model, PLS-SEM is the preferred technique. PLS-SEM is the preferred technique. I'll show you dozens of papers where people write one paragraph as to why they have used PLS-SEM. But in CB-SEM, people never write this argument. Now I have come across instances where reviewers have asked a question, you have applied CB-SEM, so where is the multivariate normality assumption criteria? Or show us whether your data fulfills the multivariate normality assumption. So there, if you are working with Likert scale, multivariate normality assumption will be violated. So now that if you can't satisfy the reviewer with some alternative logic that we are working with Likert scale and multivariate normality assumption would be violated, but when we work with a fairly large sample size, then normality issue is not a concern. Yes, so if you fail to convince the reviewer, he or she might reject your paper. But it has become a tradition. Apart from tradition, it is pertinent that you give a logic as to what context and what circumstances encourage you to use PLS-SEM. And the best answer to answer you is that if you are fairly working on a complex model where formative construct is also involved and single item construct is also involved, then you should say that PLS-SEM is the preferred approach. Okay, so we'll see that discussion when to use, and in fact Professor Hare, Ringel, Marcos, Arsted, these are all developers of PLS-SEM. They wrote a beautiful paper in 2019, and that paper is a seminal paper. When I say seminal paper, it will guide future generations for long. By the way, if you see this paper, Abraham Maslow's paper, Hierarchy of Needs, it was published in 1943 in some journal of psychology, something. I'm forgetting the name of the journal. And this paper is a seminal paper. Even today people discuss about this paper. So the developers of PLS-SEM, they have written a seminal paper in 2019. And from 2019 till today, all the metrics of that paper is intact. I'll show you that paper after some time. And to answer you, sir, more pertinently, so I have this paper with me. I can show you this paper. See, just a second. So this is a 2019 paper, when to use and how to report the results of PLS-SEM. and written by Hare, Risher, Sastre, Ringel. These are all developers of PLS-SEM. Yes, and in this paper they have given all arguments from A to Z that what are the grounds that you should use PLS-SEM. Okay, and by the way, this paper has very huge citation. So Hare, Risher, Sastre, Ringel, and this paper is published in European Business Review. This is A-star paper. And this is just a review paper, no empirical data, just a review paper. They have compiled all information and presented it. So here they come out with very interesting argument that, see, if I can read some line for you, so that, yeah, okay, just a second. Okay, should minimize it slightly. Yeah, okay. Backside it is visible?
Yes, ma'am.
See what is it telling? See? The purpose of this paper is to provide a comprehensive yet concise overview of the consideration and metrics required for PLS-SEM analysis and result reporting. So what are the considerations? When should you use PLS-SEM and what metrics, what statistics has to be reported? Yes, see, when I say statistics, it is about thresholds. See, when you go to a doctor, let's say you got your blood test done. You go to a doctor, show the report. The doctor see the thresholds. So similarly, a statistician sees the thresholds of the numbers. So if the numbers are crossing the thresholds, it is good. Otherwise, there is a problem. So similarly, statistics is as simple as this. It's about matrix. And preliminary considerations are summarized first. So authors are summarizing that what are the preliminary considerations to use PLS-SEM, including reasons for choosing PLS-SEM. Why should researcher go for PLS-SEM? Recommended sample size and selected context. So what, see, again I am saying CB-SEM is a large sample size technique, but PLS-SEM can work on sample size as low as 120, 130, 140. But provided at 120, 130, 140, whatever is your N, it should come from varied sources, not from one area. Okay? So PLS-SEM can work equally well with small sample sizes. That's why you see most of the research scholars says that our sample size was limited, that's why we are using PLS-SEM. Our sample size was limited. Let's say you are taking a sample which is B2B. Your sample is not ordinary consumers. You are studying, let's say, supply chain or for that matter, some other where businesses are involved. So not much data will be available to you. So there will be paucity of data. So in that case, you can write an argument that my sector had business customers and it's not easy to approach business customers. So that's why with the paucity of sample, we went ahead and used PLS-SEM, and PLS-SEM produces robust results even for small sample sizes. So here if you see distributional assumptions. By the way, PLS-SEM has no assumptions. It's an assumption-free technique to SEM. There are no assumptions. CB-SEM there are assumptions, but PLS-SEM there are no distributional assumptions with regard to how is the data distributed, normality and all. There are no assumptions about it. That's why this is a non-parametric approach to SEM. And initially people started criticizing PLS-SEM. This is poor man's structure equation modeling. Yes, there are a lot of criticisms, but I'll tell you, of late PLS-SEM has superseded CB-SEM. When we are seated here, there are so many people who are developing on the algorithm. By the way, PLS is an algorithm. CB-SEM uses MLE method. That is the algorithm that Amos software uses. And when you talk about PLS-SEM, the algorithm is partial least square. It's an algorithm. Yes? What algorithm SPSS uses? SPSS. You use SPSS? What algorithm it uses? OLS. Ordinary least square. So SPSS, the algorithm which is, see, you press tab, but behind there is a lot of algorithm working. So SPSS works on OLS algorithm. Amos works on MLE method. Yes, and Smart PLS works on PLS algorithm. By the way, these are all algorithms. If you read technical papers of PLS-SEM, it's full of mathematics. Beta, alpha, kappa, it will go above your head. So these are all algorithms. So software uses those algorithms. Yes? Okay. this is not poor man structure equation modeling. Huh? Now it has become ultra rich man structure equation modeling. Okay. So next, the matrix as well as the rules of thumb that should be applied to assess the PLS-SEM results are covered. Besides presenting established PLS-SEM, there are so many other things that we'll be talking about. So it's a beautiful paper. I think I have uploaded this paper and it's there in that recommended reading list. And here see this paper you can heavily cite. So they have answered each and every question. All doubts related to PLS-SEM has been settled. Yes. You see they are reporting. When you are doing measurement model, what should you report? When you report the results of structural model, what all things you report? And later on they have given you all thresholds. By the way, and see, this is the line that they have given. See in bullet points. PLS-SEM as a distinct method for analyzing composite-based path models. Nevertheless, applied research is still confronted with the choice between the two SEM methods. Researchers should select PLS-SEM when? Then they give an argument that when should you use PLS-SEM? Yes? So they have given beautiful argument. So by the way, this same cutout is there in my PPT. That when should you use PLS-SEM? So let me come to this. Okay, and yeah. So I think this much is enough for PLS-SEM. So I have uploaded some A-star paper also. There people have used PLS-SEM and see how they have written all the arguments, how they have written all the results. You have to exactly reproduce how researchers report all their analysis in A-star paper. Exactly you have to report in your PhD thesis or in your research papers that you will be working on. Exactly. So now this much is over. See again if somebody will ask that what is the one big difference in CB-SEM and PLS-SEM? One big difference. It is with yes. Okay, good. Okay, so one Meenakshi is saying for if you want to develop theory, PLS-SEM. If you want to confirm theories, CB-SEM. Okay, this is a fair argument. But algorithm wise, see again I said Amos uses MLE and Smart PLS uses PLS algorithm. By the way, PLS is an algorithm. So one big difference, what they say is 100% correct. But one big difference is how you estimate the latent constructs. See, path relationship is MLR only. Path relationship from A to B, B to C. This is regression only. But how do you estimate the latent construct? Or how do you establish the construct validity? There is a big difference. So if you read this line, now PLS-SEM, again I said, it assumes that there are no errors associated with the observed variable. That's the biggest folly where everybody attacked PLS-SEM. And you see CB-SEM, there will be an arrow which will be going from observed variable to the error term. If I can show you some PLS models, in CB-SEM there is always an error associated with the observed variable. Yes? But in PLS-SEM it assumes that there is no error associated with the observed variable. And they say that the construct is a proxy. So we are using some proxy ways of measuring the construct. Okay. Now let me confuse you slightly because this is a very meta conversation that is happening here right now. I said notoriety. How will you measure notoriety? Remember my model, yesterday's model, my stupid model. I said notoriety. Now you will say notoriety. How will you measure? You will ask 5 questions and you will get to know whether a person was notorious or not in his childhood days. Yes? Now somebody would say asking a question and getting to know whether a person was notorious or not in his formative years, it doesn't work well with me. I'll simply go and collect some data, how many remarks he had in the school calendar. You know, rogue people, not rogue people in the sense, जो किसी का सुनते हैं उनको बोलते हैं rogue people, R-O-G-U-E. Rogue, R-O-G-U, rogue people. So you see rogue people get lot of remarks in their calendar. They will have few police complaint on their name. Yes. And Bagi रहते ना Bagi. So somebody will say no, I will not ask 5 questions to somebody. I will see how many remarks in the school calendar he had. Getting? So that is also a measure of notoriety. So see, there is one direct way of measuring and there is one proxy way of measuring a variable. There are so many ways by which you can measure a variable. Let's be genius in how we measure a variable. We can't simply rely on established procedures. There are other ways of establishing the measurement of that particular variable. So here what see, CB-SEM, it estimates latent variable using MLE technique. PLS-SEM estimates latent variable with PLS technique, but here it assumes there is measurement error, and PLS-SEM assumes that there is no measurement error associated with the observed variable. Rest everything is same between them. Here also they use MLR after estimating the latent construct. Here also they use MLR. The only difference is how PLS-SEM estimates the latent construct and how CB-SEM estimates the latent construct. So one assumes there is error, which is robust and which is a fair argument. CB-SEM is very fair when it says that yes, there is an error associated with the observed variable. But PLS-SEM, somewhere it is unfair when it says that there is no error associated with the observed variable. And that's why maximum people attack PLS-SEM in how it estimates the latent construct with the assumption that there is no error. And that's why there was a big fight between CB-SEM users and PLS-SEM users. Of late that fight is no more now. Okay. So PLS-SEM developed by Herman Wold, 1975. Yes. If you read Herman Wold's paper, he said it's a soft approach to structure equation modeling. Soft approach. That's why people criticize it's a poor man's structure equation modeling. Then it is a non-parametric approach to SEM that estimates the relationship in path models with latent and manifest variables using regression-based technique. So PLS-SEM actually uses regression techniques. It uses regression to estimate latent construct, then again it uses regression to estimate the path relationship. It's a regression-based approach. Yes? And CB-SEM uses factor analysis technique to estimate the latent construct. And this uses regression approach. So it focuses on the interplay between prediction and theory testing. So PLS-SEM also tests theory, but at the same time it also makes prediction as to what will happen in future. I'll give an example. See, in PLS-SEM, over the period of time, developers came out with an interesting argument and they superseded CB-SEM. They said, in PLS-SEM what we will do, we will divide our data into two parts. One is your training sample and second is your testing sample. One is your training sample and second is your testing sample. So initially we will train our model on a training sample and they will test it, and later we will test the predictive power of the model on a holdout sample, which is your test sample. And then we will say whether our model has predictive validity or not. You see, CB-SEM, there is no such thing called predictive validity. Whether this model will hold good for future, there is no comment on it. But PLS-SEM says that I will divide my sample into two parts. First part I will do the training, and second part I will do the testing, and then I will comment that what if somebody collects a new data, will my model hold true? So they talk about predictive validity, whether my model can predict future observations, or in future if somebody collects a data and try to test this model, will this model be valid? Getting? So there they superseded CB-SEM with coming out with predictive validity of the model. Means model is relevant today, and let's say for tomorrow also they are commenting whether this model will be relevant or not. So they are outshining the limitations that are associated with the cross-sectional data. Getting? So when you use PLS predict, now you are commenting about future. Yes? So even if you have used cross-sectional data, but still you are commenting about the future. So that makes your model more valid for future. With CB-SEM doesn't does. Okay. So these are all meta conversation, you should be mindful of it. So when you go for your PhD, Viva or other things, interviews and all, or for that matter, in your defense of thesis or in any international conference you attend, so all this conversation you should be mindful of. And then you can answer people in a very easier way. Then PLS path modeling, either you call it PLS-SEM or PLS path modeling. Different name, PLS-SEM or PLS path modeling, is alternative complementary to CB-SEM. Lastly, very important. What is the goal of PLS-SEM? To maximize the variance in the To maximize the explained variance of exogenous construct and endogenous construct. Explained variance means R square. Yani the goal of PLS-SEM is to maximize R square. Yes. Exogenous construct is your IV, independent variable, and endogenous construct is your dependent variable. Yes. So the goal is to maximize the R square. That's simple. Okay. So it is also referred to as variance-based structure equation modeling. Three names of PLS-SEM. Either call it PLS-SEM or call it PLS path modeling, or you call it variance-based approach to structure equation modeling. Three names. PLS-SEM, PLS path modeling. Third is variance-based approach to structure equation modeling. Variance means R square. Okay. And this is the paper, the snapshot. 2019 paper. Normally, if you write paper and send it to a journal, and if the journal people find out that all citation are 10 years old, 20 years old. You see, some people write papers. They give citation 1986, citation 1995, citation 2011, citation 2016. Then reviewers, they give a comment that you have reviewed only past papers. Recent ka paper kuch dekha hi nahi. And there are smart reviewers who say you are doing research in India. Where are Indian authors? Have you reviewed any Indian authors? Where are Indian authors? You see all papers. You see people write papers all heavily. They are quoting people from other countries. You are doing research in your country on your sample, and all the papers have you reviewed of the past. It means you have not seen what Indian authors are telling about that phenomenon. That's why try to bring Indianness in your research. Try to cite as many Indian authors as possible. Use a scale that is developed in India rather than simply adapting and borrowing it. Now you see people are working on justice, organizational justice, and people call about justice as 4 components. What is that? Procedural, distributive, informational, interactional. So apart from these 4 dimensions of justice, there might be some other dimensions of justice, and the Indian concept of justice is something else. But still, of that justice scale which has 4 dimensions, people are still using it. So this is a seminal paper. It's there. You should cite this paper, and you should when I perform PLS-SEM in R, we'll cite this paper heavily. And you see most of the papers are citing this paper. So when you use PLS-SEM, when you have a small sample size, yes, when you are working on formative constructs. Let's say you have a model which has formative, reflective construct both. Now CB-SEM is not meant for formative construct. So if you have a model where you are using combination of formative and reflective construct, PLS-SEM. Yes, if you have a one item construct means you are measuring that construct using one item. So again PLS-SEM is there. Yes. So again, if you want to maximize the R square or theory development, all those things I think we have discussed. I am not going in detail. You can read it. Yeah. And yes. So now see, there are so many people across the globe who are writing review articles on PLS-SEM now. In every field, right from accounting to supply chain management to software engineering to management to international business research, everywhere PLS-SEM is used heavily. Almost all fields, there is no field that has left untouched where PLS-SEM has not been used. And now people are writing review articles on PLS-SEM, how people can use PLS-SEM into their domains very nicely, how they can make their analysis robust. They are coming out in defense of argument. There is one journal called Journal of Business Research, A category journal. By the way, I request all research scholars, download few JBR papers, Journal of Business Research, and report their analytic style in your paper. How they are analyzing, you also analyze, no matter what software you use. And report how they are reporting it. Then you will easily get through it. So these were the critics, Ronco and Everman. And their paper came which year? 2013. They 2013, just 12 years old story. They said PLS-SEM is useless. Don't use it. And when they this paper, you see what happened. All who's who of management research all came together, and they answered every query that was brought by Ronco and Everman. And after some time, Ronco and Everman said, okay, the developers have answered all our queries, but still, ek do question hai, but still it can be used. See, this is academics. And in academics is the only profession where you can agree and disagree. Yes, other profession, there is no, if you are working in military, army or government organization, you can't disagree. But academic is the only profession where you can agree and disagree with each other. And academics is the only profession where you are paid for your own development. Yes, academics is the only profession where you are reading for your own development. So if you are passionate about it, you will never feel that you have worked even for a single day. Actually, people are paying for your development. Yes, and be grateful to your students that, see, darkness defines light. If there had been no darkness, people would not have understood where is light. If there was no unhappiness, people would not have understood what is happiness. Similarly, if there would have been no student, a teacher's purpose would have become a zero. That's why when you become teachers, you should be very grateful to your students. Your very existence is because of them. If they are not there, you are a big zero. That's why teachers should always be grateful to their students. So, after, see, these guys targeted Ronco and Everman, and they answered every query that they raised in their paper with lot of empirical evidence. And yes, so in short form, when to use, you can summarize PLS-SEM and CB-SEM. Confirm. By the way, this PPT, I'll put it in that link today itself. You get this PPT as it is. You can use in your classrooms, train your students on PLS-SEM. Yes, ma'am, yes. This has strong assumption, that has liberal assumptions. It takes care of only reflective measurement model, reflective formative single item construct. Even a single item construct. PLS-SEM takes care. Now it has superseded this. Should we proceed? Now this is my last PPT, after that we'll start coding and all. So this is a model. Can you relate to this model? LMX. LMX stands for leader member exchange. The relationship quality that you have with your leader. If you have good quality relationship with your leader, you will experience oneness with the organization. Organization identification. See, like we all identify with our family members. If something happens to them, we feel that it has happened to me. So we are psychologically identified with our family members. So similarly, do you identify with your organization? Let's say somebody cribs about your organization. How would you react? Don't say like this to my organization. My organization is good. It means you are psychologically aligned with the organization. And this psychological oneness with the organization is experienced when you have very good relationship quality with them. So LMX, it affects OI, and OI affects extra role behaviors, that is citizenship behavior. You go beyond your job description. Something that is not part of your job description, you go and give to that. So LMX affects OI, OI affects OCB. So now this is a simple mediation model. Friends, this is a simple mediation model. So there is a direct effect. So there is a direct effect from LMX to OCB. And there is an effect via OI. Yes? This is all your manifest variable. This all is your manifest variable. And these are your constructs. These are your constructs. All yellows are your observed variables. You are measuring this through these 5 items. OI through 5 items. OCB through 8 items. So those are your indicators, observed variables, manifest variables, and these are your constructs. Now in PLS-SEM, we call it as outer model or measurement model. If you run Amos, if you have used Amos, or please refer Vishal Gupta's online session on YouTube. Sir has explained Amos very nicely, and Sir is expert in Amos, Professor Vishal Gupta from IIM Ahmedabad. So when I attended his session, so Amos, how Amos takes place, no? First you have to test all your outer models. Then you go for structure equation modeling, that is the path relationship. So similarly, this outer model is your measurement model. Here you perform CFA. So CFA is to test the relationship between the constructs and observed variable. So here you perform CFA, which is your measurement model testing or theory testing. So can you identify how many measurement theories we have in this model? How many outer model we have in this entire model? 1, 2 and 3. So these 3 are your measurement model. And the middle one is your inner model, which is your structural model or path model. Yes? Okay, let me go back. First you have to establish construct validity, that is convergent and discriminant validity for all 3 constructs, latent constructs. First we will establish construct validity. CFA is done for construct validity, and construct validity has 2, convergent validity and discriminant validity. Now what is the idea of convergent validity? It means these items should converge here. See, now if you see the arrow is from construct to the indicator. So this is a reflective construct. So if the construct is same and all these are coming from this same latent construct, you can assume that they will have very high correlations. See, this is your latent construct. This is causing this, this is causing this, this is causing this, this is causing this. So when all have come from a same parent, naturally their association or relationship will be very high. Similarly there, all items of OI are coming from OI. So it is naturally that they will have very high R among themselves, high correlation R. Here also, they will have very high R because they come from a common parent. So convergent validity, you check whether there is high R or not between all the indicator items. And there you see AVE, average variance explained or average variance extracted. If your AVE is nothing but R square. AVE is nothing but R square. Professor Neeraj Kaushik has uploaded a video on YouTube. And he talks about in entire statistics, everywhere you can see R. Everywhere you can see R. Now, here people also call it loadings. This is also known as loadings, factor loadings. So here loadings is nothing but R. Yes. So if my AVE is greater than 0.50, I say convergent validity is established. Now my AVE is nothing but average of all the loadings. My AVE will be average of all the loadings. So if my AVE is greater than 0.50, AVE is nothing but R square is nothing but R into R. So I will say, yes, all my items are converging on this construct, so construct validity is established. 0.50. So when I say construct validity, it has 2 parts, convergent validity and discriminant validity. So convergent validity means all items should converge here, all items should converge here, all items should converge here because they are belonging to the same parent. Now when I say discriminant validity, it means when audience are filling your survey, they should differentiate between the items. See, again I am saying audience or participants never answer construct, they answer items. It is you who go and merge and say, ye 5 ban ke ye ban raha hai. Now what if your audience doesn't discriminate between the question? If they don't discriminate, it means all constructs will be one to them. So discriminant validity is to establish that yes, participants are seeing the constructs differently. They are not seeing them as one. Participants are reading the questions and they are seeing difference in the questions, in the statement. They are not seeing as one. So the purpose of discriminant validity is to prove that all the constructs are seen differently by the participants. They are not seen as one.
So
If all items people see as one, yes ma'am.
all the different constructs are understood by the participants as differently.
Differently, yes. People should not see all items as one. You see some people, if you circulate question on WhatsApp, people strongly agree, strongly agree, strongly agree. It means he is not reading and answering it. He is not differentiating between the items. So if people don't differentiate between the items, there will be a huge discriminant validity issue. That's why I say rather than 1000 people mindlessly filling your survey, it is better 250 people read your survey and give you the data. Number size becomes immaterial if people are mindlessly filling your survey. How do you ensure that people actually read your survey and give you the data? Do you remember that common method bias paper, seminal paper by whom? Potsakov and McKenzie. They say when you design a questionnaire, you should ask random question here and there. In between, you should have some, you put to check whether this person has answered or not. What's the idea of having a negative worded item in the questionnaire? Just to check whether this person is authentic or not. Now you'll find in survey people write which is your favorite color. This has nothing to do with your survey, but still people ask which is your favorite color. Or they will ask some difficult question somewhere here and there just to see whether the person is reading or not. So there are a lot of detectors where you can make it out this survey is useless, just remove it. The person has not read it. And let's this not be part of my final analysis. That's why designing of survey is a very creative art. Don't mindlessly put your questions in Google form and circulate. No, it's a very creative art. Unless you are cocksure, unless you have consulted some experts or you have spoken to some important people in the field, once everything is in place, then go and collect the data. First do the pilot testing. And pilot testing is always on the 10% of the sample size. Let's say your sample size is 500, 10% of 500 is 50. You should do pilot testing at least on 50 responses. Just hold on, then see what mistake you did, how it can be corrected. Go and talk to people who took the survey. Ask them what was missing in this question. If they find no, most of the items are not relevant to my industry, what is the use in giving them survey? इंडिया में ऐसा लोग मजाक से बोलते हैं कि पहले PhD कर लो, रिसर्च बाद में करना. Yes, first do PhD, research बाद में करना. No, don't do. Again, I am saying कि you should be grateful to your department that time and again they are organizing and they are sending you to some of the beautiful places to present your papers. And you should utilize every minute of your time while you are a research scholar. And this is a very landmark journey. Not everybody is blessed to be a researcher. Yes, but you are a researcher, so you should utilize best of your time and you should do a very good work so that your thesis becomes guidance to so many people. And you become a torchbearer that your knowledge should be disseminated to so many other places. So that's the beauty of doing a systematic and a sincere PhD rather than doing it just to prefix your name. Never do PhD to prefix your name. Yes? Okay. So this is outer model. We will establish convergent validity is for outer models. Convergent validity, discriminant validity is for outer models. And hypothesis testing is your inner model. A leads to B, B leads to C, C leads to D, and OI mediates LMX OI, OC. So inner model is your hypothesis, outer model is your construct validity. Construct validity has convergent and discriminant validity. Okay. So there are three packages. One is PLS-SEM package. In R there is a package called PLS-SEM, which is used to perform PLS-SEM, but very base package, not very popular. CB-SEM package, the most technical package, the most difficult package. Yes. CB-SEM package is the most difficult package. In fact, the paper that I published in B category journal is through CB-SEM package. And the easiest one is seminar package. All research scholars close your eyes and use seminar package. Seminar package can do CB-SEM also, PLS-SEM also. See, and this is developed by Soumya and Danks. So this is one package, it will help you to perform CB-SEM also, PLS-SEM also. No AMOS, no Smart PLS4, no license. Never crib that your institution is not buying license for SPSS, your institution is not buying license for AMOS, Smart PLS, never crib. I am a part of a research group at Pondicherry University. I pursued my PhD. I see scholars constantly writing, university is not giving us Smart PLS license. There is a lot of open source that is happening. It will take only 2 hours for you to master R. Not more than 2 hours, I promise you. Not more than 2 hours to learn R. And with the advent of AI, R you can master nicely like anything. You don't have to do anything. Simply type in ChatGPT, borrow the code, put it, run the output, analysis done. And beyond analysis is your research. So don't depend on any proprietary software. Use R. And if you can go one step ahead, learn Python. Learn Python. So this is a package I would strongly insist, and in fact in this workshop I will be covering seminar to make your life easy. And don't be obsessed with the analytics. What goes before analytics is research. Any data you will put, something will come out. Don't be obsessed with the data. What goes before data is very important. Your theory, your arguments, your literature review, these are all fundamental. This should be strong. Okay? Shabana ma'am, you can think of inviting some resource person who can teach your research scholars how to use AI in their research in a very meaningful way. There are so many. Again, I tell you, I know one of my friend. She's in Jaipuria, Noida. So she takes lectures on AI, on research scholars. So how to use AI in your research. So there are a lot many AI where you will get all your literature review done systematically, all your how to report your tables. There's so many things. How to draw a flow chart, everything. How to do bibliometric analysis, everything. So there are a lot of AI things have come. So you can organize one AI so that your research scholars are smart, because future is of AI. Earlier they were using Google, now nobody uses Google. People are just chat GPTing it, or people are using Copilot and they are getting all their work done. So you all should be familiarized with all the AI that is happening in the field of research, so that tomorrow when you go, you should be 10 times ahead of your students. Normally I see many teachers one lecture ahead of student. No, we should be 100 lectures ahead of students. And teachers, as a future teacher, you should constantly invest in your education. 10% of whatever you earn should be on your education. Yes, okay. So this package we'll be using throughout our workshops. Sir, we have 5 minutes. No. Yeah, okay. Yes. So I think there is a tea break. So what we can do before proceeding for tea break. So what we can do is that, so after tea break, the agenda is we will be running exploratory factor analysis, EFA. Yes? How to run EFA, that will be seen. Okay, sir. We'll break.
AI यूज करते समय दो चीज का जरूर ध्यान रखिएगा, साइकोलॉजिस्ट हैं हम लोग, क्या प्रेगरिज्म तो छोड़िए, वो तो कर ही लेंगे, और क्या अपनी ह्यूमन टेंडेंसी कौन सी प्रॉब्लम करेगी, कॉग्निटिव माइजर हम हैं, ठीक है, और दूसरा क्या है सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट टेंडेंसी इवोल्यूशन में, लेजीनेस, दोनों मिल गई तो एआई हम पे हावी हो जाएगा. बी केयरफुल अबाउट योर लेजीनेस, अवर लेजीनेस टेंडेंसी एंड द कॉग्निटिव माइजरनेस. उसकी वजह से बायसेस इतनी है कि पूरे वर्ल्ड में फाइट हो रही है. ऐसा ना हो कि हम लोग फाइट करने लगे.
There are people from ideation to data analysis, everywhere they are using AI. Ideation means idea generation. What research should I take? But again as a researcher, we should avoid taking shortcuts in our research. Use AI to help yourself. Don't be carried away by AI. The entire thing is you write an introduction on OCB, so it will give you 10 pages. This is mindless. You should write your own introduction beautifully, because that is a creativity that you are writing an introduction for your paper. That's it.
So Wiley Sage जैसे publications हमारे central library वाले workshop कराते हैं, वो भी AI हमें बताते रहते हैं कि क्या कर सकते हैं.
अच्छी बात है ना. See, the future is of AI, so we should not shy away from it. But at the same time, we should not allow ourselves to be heavily. See, if you use AI, so where is knowledge creation? See, the purpose of PhD is that we are creating a knowledge of a particular sample, a particular theory. So when AI is doing also what you are doing, and why will people take you seriously? There was one company called Deloitte, and they submitted a report to their client. It was AI generated. The client sued Deloitte, citing that you have done fraud on us. We have given you our project so that you will do it systematically, but you took help of AI and the entire report we have submitted. Again, I'll tell you, there was one scientist, Raghunath Mashelkar, and he was in Prime Minister's Advisory Council. Professor Raghunath Mashelkar is from Maharashtra and very well-known scientist. So they went to PMO, they submitted a report to the PMO, and later on it was found that most of their report was plagiarized. Plagiarized means it was heavily borrowed from here and there without citation. So they had to face huge backlash. I said, you are a celebrated scientist in this country, and you are submitting a report to PMO which is heavily plagiarized. So I mean, here as a researchers we should find a catch. You see, many vice chancellors, they leave their job. Why? Because people take their PhD, put in, turn it in, and say that he has done nothing. So that's why if you want to become a person of substance, you should really slog. And 4 or 5 years, whatever you have, this is a period where you are fine-tuning yourself, you are becoming a better version of what you are. So that department and your family members should be proud of who you are. Getting? Thank you, Chal. We'll break. Yes.
AI को रेगुलेट आप करिए, AI आपको रेगुलेट ना करे।
मतलब वो कराते हैं वर्कशॉप
आएंगे हम कोई भी चीज nothing is bad and good, ठीक है? वो कहता है कि the way to use, कि आप उसको कैसे यूज कर रहे हो, कि आप यूज कर रहे हैं उसको टूल की तरह कि उसी को गोल बना लिया है।
नहीं
now ह्यूमन बीइंग की प्रॉब्लम है वो हमेशा मीन्स को गोल बना समझ लेता है, ठीक है? तो यही टेंडेंसी को हमको अवॉइड करना है
इजीएस्ट वे खोजने लगता है।
और ये सब सारा AI को बीट करने का चैलेंज साइकोलॉजिस्ट पे है। कुछ दिन बाद नहीं हो तो पूरी साइकोलॉजी ह्यूमन बीइंग की जगह शायद नई डेफिनेशन आएगी, साइंटिफिक स्टडी ऑफ AI। जैसे किसी ने बीच में शेयर डाल दिया पहली बच्ची जो बैठी थी जिसमें उसको ज्यादा इजी होगा वो चली गई।